Personalization too as a whole, definitely a lot of people talks about it. I feel sometimes people are using that as a more of a buzzword. But when it comes to Sally and our core analytics offerings, we try to go step by step approach. And it's not like once in a done deal kind of thing. Oh, I have done my personalization effort. Let's stop it.
Hello and welcome to the AI Master Group podcast, featuring the people who are building the future of AI in their work today. I'm your host, Jim Griffin. Today, I'm very happy to introduce Nikhil Patel, who's the Director of Data Science at Sally Beauty. He previously was the Associate Director of Data Science at Harman International. In fact, he's got 19 years of experience and started it all off with a master's degree in applied mathematics. Nikhil, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jim.
So you've actually had a very interesting career, and of course, I know you well because we work together. But your career actually started with teaching in a university, I think, followed by work at several very notable brands, some of which I've mentioned just now and others I did not. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey to the point that you are today?
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's all started back in, let's say, for example, 2000, where that was a time period in 2000, year of 2000, where I have to make a choice of my bachelor's degree. And, back in then, there were not many options due to a lot of reasons where I grew up and a lot of other constraint, right? So the option which I chose that time was like, okay, let's go with mathematics as a main subject and a bachelor degree. And then I have an option to select an electives, and I chose that time like statistics and physics, which I believe, if you think from today's point of view, like after 25 years from that decision, I believe a lot of people, a lot of kids wants to do the same thing, wants to learn more physics, more mathematics and statistics combined all together so that they can use more in data science, machine learning, engineering fields, and so on and so forth, right? So I believe it's all like came in path probably from the decision making. And then I was like a more of an average student during that time. It was great learning all the mathematics back in 2000, but it was also challenging for me for some portion of for mathematics, right? It was not always easy. And then at the end of program, my professor told me that, Nikhil, don't worry about what you did over here, what achievements you made over here. Nobody's gonna ask about your bachelor degree. What you should focus more on is a master's. And that's where I decided to opt in as a master's in applied mathematics, which was like one of the great offerings during that time back in India for the place where I grew up. And that's where I did master's in applied mathematics from the university called Maharaja Sayajirao University, which was very, very well-known, renowned university locally in India, and also from my place and state. So that gives me, I think, very strong foundation to where I have started my career in early career. Like after completing masters, I got an offer to work in the same department as a teaching assistant, and did my couple of years as a teaching assistant, where my main objective over there is to teach undergrads and master students some sort of mathematics, basic algebra, calculus for engineering students and undergrad students. And then parallelly, I was also doing some research with my same professor, where it was also kind of coincidence, if I have to say, that I choose a topic for my PhD during that time was control of robotics manipulator during using neural networks. And it was so fascinating during back in like 2003, we didn't have that many big GPUs, and we didn't have that fancy libraries to run neural networks. So I was using very fundamental like open source Linux based tools and some sort of libraries from MATLAB. Again, it has limitations because all of those my library computer were running on CPU, and it didn't have that much bandwidth to run those neural networks, right? So now, if I see now, if I'm running neural networks on my GPUs and cloud computing, it's so faster and so advanced, what we used to do back in like 2003, 2005. But coming back to your original question, like I believe that helped me to build my foundation, really, really strong foundation. And from that onwards, I moved to more of an industry, like started my career as a measurement science executive back in Baroda, Gujarat, India, worked with a company called Nielsen. And during that early days of Nielsen, we used to do a lot of work for FMCG clients like Procter and Gamble, Unilever, Kraft, and those are their major clients from the Nielsen point of view, where we collect all the panel data, all the in-store sales data collection, and then trying to understand overall globally what is their brand coverage analysis, what is their market coverage analysis looks like. And we didn't have that fancy words back in days like data scientist, or we used to be like doing all this analysis basic in SQL, some sort of SaaS tools that we were using, and building a lot of fundamental analytics for those brands basically. And I believe that helped also as a second part of my career, where I started learning a lot more in terms of what exactly the industry is looking out of it, right? What what are the different tools and technology actually I was able to learn more. And then as career progressed, I move on to company more from the consulting facing form. I moved to Bangalore in India and started a new phase of my life there. More from consulting point of view, where I work across the industry and different segments like healthcare, automotive, insurance domain companies, where we build a lot of sophisticated machine learning and data science backed algorithms, and building solutions like revenue cycle model for hospitals, for healthcare domain, building personalized experience or self-learning car features for some of the European manufacturers over there back in India. So it was quite interesting, like a lot of different exposure I got over a period of time. And at the same time, learning new domain is always challenging, right? Because you know the data, but you have to adopt what exactly the data is telling you. So that also helped me to build that career path. And then in 2014, I decided to move to US from my intra-company transfer. So the same company offered me a job here in US, and in 2014 I moved to US. Again, same company, but different clients, different portfolios that I used to manage, a lot of internal development over there. And then later on, that transition helped me to learn across international brands. Again, in automotive, retail, healthcare was main focus over there back in 2014 to all the way up to 2021, basically. So, and then that company basically, it was Symphony Teleca where I joined initially, and then it got acquired by a company called Harman International in 2015, and then Harman International got acquired by Samsung, and then Harman is still as a subsidiary or the sister portfolio company from Samsung portfolio brands. So it got me a lot of good exposure, a lot of good learning from so many different variety of algorithms that we used to build, not just uh, data science, but it is more of understanding the industry, understanding their standards, and helping myself as well as overall goal for the company, that how we can build whole data science as a practice in the organization. So I was one of the initial hires within US, and then we grew up from there from Herman side. And then I decided to move on from 2021 onwards, and currently working as a director of data science with Sally Beauty. So yeah, it was quite a journey. As you said, like it's like almost like 19 years now when I go back and see how where we started and where I am. It's a lot of growth, a lot of new things that I have learned over a period of time, and data science, data analytics was always a core that I was doing in my day in day out.
It's a very nice trajectory that you have that's very logical, the way one thing builds upon another. Of course, you've got these really strong credentials, the master's in applied mathematics and really an uninterrupted career in the field. And yet, the world, as you alluded to just now, is really changing. You think about both the hardware and the software side is changing dramatically as everything is advancing. So, what kinds of things have you been doing to help you keep yourself current and fresh in the face of those headwinds?
I think it's a really nice and interesting question. The way I see it, definitely, as I said earlier, also like the foundation, the mathematics degree, core in bachelor and masters, helped me a lot. Even when I say back in 2003, 2005, the course that I picked up and the things that I learned over that 2 years of time period, it was quite advanced even in today's date. During that time we learned whole sort of algebra, all the simulation and algebra and the machine learning, not machine learning like, but more of simulation modeling and understanding different algebraic equations and the dynamics around like how those equations are related in terms of the matrix multiplication. So all those terminology, all those fundamental concepts helped me a lot. But it was really interesting that during that time we also learned programming during our course. So we learned over there MATLAB, we learned fundamental C++. It's not about language, but it is about building that logical reasoning, right? How when you're given a problem in front of you, how you are going to approach that problem from the programming point of view, right? Doesn't matter you did that time during with the Java or with the C++ or with the MATLAB or any other open source tool like Octave. Those those learnings basically build the foundation in terms of core logical reasoning, trying to understand what data is telling you the story, help me a lot. But always like data science is always a challenging field. It's not like what you, oh, I learned during my undergrad or the masters. Now I don't have to learn new things. It's not like that. I believe over 20 years of period of my career, I have learned so many new different things over a period of time. And it's always like a more of a motivation to learn something new as time progresses. Like time to time, as I said, I upgraded myself. I never learned SQL. I learned SQL. I never learned professionally like how to deal with Excels and those basic tools, right? So I learned those things. Then I never got a learning as an education platform wise. We never learned SAS. So like that I learned some certifications. I did some professional learning over a period of time, and I learned basically the basic SAS, advanced programming in SAS, and then they have their own beautiful tool called Enterprise Miner, which do a lot of drag and drop machine learning end-to-end data pipeline. So early stage of career, I learned those tools, and at a mid stage, I realized now it's time to upgrade again, where a lot of advanced tools came in, like the Python, R, and then it was the era where a lot of people were talking about big data and Hadoop, and a lot of overall ecosystem was building up. Not only just programming tool, right? It's about how we are going to store this data now because it's a massive data, the entire ecosystem. So learning those working in the cloud environment, like if you say AWS or Microsoft Azure, like all those were challenges because I am never a computer science background. I always was a math background. So learning those systems, learning those tools on the job was always a challenging. But you always have to keep up with new tools and technology. As you see in the data science field, always comes new things on a daily basis, right? So that was also interesting that I learned over a period of time. And then when you're working on certain projects, you need to adopt those programming language at the same time, underlying hardware as well. So in like last 10 years, what I have to say is like a lot of advancement happen in field of AI and machine learning world, which is like more of a deep learning algorithms, where you learn different sensors or the images and try to fuse them. Particularly if we talk about the automotive domain, that has changed drastically the way you used to do 10 years before. So now a lot of features are available which are built back by some sort of machine learning, data science, and data engineering all together combined, and sitting those end product in your car, like helping you to navigate through certain congested traffic, or helping you to navigate between two lanes, and those traffic assistant or the emergency brake assistant, and the lane keeping assistance, and a lot of other advanced features that now you see, right, which are built on top of camera. So it was also challenging for me back in between 2015 to 2020 to learn those not only deep learning algorithms, but those algorithms are specific for any specific hardware.
You're listening to the AI Master Group podcast.
To learn those not only deep learning algorithms, but those algorithms are specific for any specific hardware. Like you cannot just pick one algorithm and put it on NVIDIA platform, or maybe any TI chipset, or maybe any Qualcomm SoC. So you have to accelerate, or you have to use those accelerators which are available from those hardwares. Then only you will able to optimize your algorithm running in an embedded device, sitting in the automotive or sitting in your mobile phone. So you really have to learn those things. And I believe over a period of time, I learned a lot of different sensor fusion techniques, deep learning techniques, working with an embedded device, not only talking about algorithm and how to integrate them and fuse them so that it will be best optimized for that and hardware, right? And then now itself, like if I'm talking about in my current role, I never worked for the company which is specialized in the beauty segment, right? If you see from the current industry, from the Sally Beauty, for me, it's a great opportunity to learn how we operate in hair care, hair color business, how it's related to the different sentiment of the customers. It's not just about CPG products, right? And so overall, if you see, or if you pick any particular domain or industry, you always have to keep updating yourself no matter where you are. Otherwise, you will feel like you will be out of equation very easily, because the way rapidly things are developing across the industries, across the segments, are very fast. And you have to keep up with those new things, new tools, new technology. And you always feels that you should always feel that urge to learn those tools and technology. So I always believe in that. And you see like a lot of new technology coming, or the advancements are happening in the artificial intelligence with the chat GPT and large language models and OpenAI world, right? With everything in open source, it is also an advantage for us to how we can learn those modules and apply in our day-to-day work.
Yes. You mentioned just now that you're at Sally Beauty, of course, and that you had never worked in the beauty segment prior to that. Are there any things that are unique or more important for the analytics work or AI work for a brand like Sally Beauty as compared, for example, to some of the CPG brands that you'd worked for previously at Nielsen?
Yeah. Yeah. So as I say, like right now, it's almost like now completed 3 years with Sally Beauty. And it's quite a journey for me so far. Learn a lot from the industry itself, because we as a Sally operate in both B2B, B2C. And it's not only about analytics, right? When it comes to offerings, I believe it's more of a blend of art and science here. It's not just science altogether. And when it comes to consumer, my philosophy of understanding the consumer is all about understanding their emotions and deeply connected what they are thinking behind their brain in terms of when they are choosing Sally as a brand, what we have to offer when they go to store, when they go to online, right? What they think about when they're selecting to try something new on their hair, right? Because it's not like, oh, you go to store and buy certain hair color and just apply. It's about emotions that we have to understand, that going behind any consumer, like why they selected, why we are helping them to get there, right? So it's more of about understanding consumer emotions. And if I have to put in a one line, it's more about building colorful world out there, which makes consumer more confident in trusting our brand, right? So that's all about I see as an analytics. But behind the scene, like when it comes to analytics, we always focus on consumer as a first. So it's always a consumer centric, right? So all the analytics work that we do is always evolves or centered around understanding the consumer journey, different touch points that they go through before they make a decision to buy that product, right? And unlocking those different journey points to better understand how we can offer better quality offerings or quality services to the consumer is how we see as an analytics. So it is always a consumer centric, right? And to get there, right, it's always have to think of like what we have in terms of my tool chain, what we have to build to get there, to deliver that consumer centric approach first, right? So now we have to go and step back and evaluate ourselves from the organization. As an organization, are we intact in terms of doing omni channel integrations, understanding consumer? Not all the consumers are going online and shopping, but they might be making certain decisions while they're reviewing certain things online, and then they go to store. So it's like not just they are, oh, I'm just not treating e-commerce consumer as an e-commerce consumer. It's to me a stepping stone before they make their final decision. They might shop at online, they might shop at marketplace, they might shop at Sally brick and mortar stores, right? But understanding that omni integration is also crucial, and we look at it from that lens also when it comes to analytics, like how we can understand omni channel integration. And this is where I believe it's a differentiator from the rest of the CPG brands. Like for them, the longer product life cycle, they're more of supply chain, and as a CPG brand, they more focus on the direct to consumer channel, right? Or more at a scale level, like how I can sell it as a scale. But for us, it's more of a one-to-one relationship and building that experience that feels the confidence in our brand. So more of a product innovations, omni-channel integrations, I believe is a core when it comes to analytics as a core, like how we can provide more support cross-functionally across the organization so that internally we can benefit all the business stakeholders, and everyone's end goal is providing quality services to the end consumer.
So you really talked about a lot of really important things. You've talked about emotion, you've talked about journey, you've talked about omni-channel, and that you have this ability to speak to an individual customer rather than through a channel, just collecting data from some kind of a store like a supermarket does. So I imagine then, and it's implied in this, and really you're getting at that, is that everybody is trying to crack the code on personalization and relevance. Do you have any things that you're working on right now that are particularly interesting in relation to the golden standard of trying to figure out how do I personalize and become as relevant as possible to each individual?
Yeah, I think personalization too as a whole, definitely a lot of people talks about it. To me, in and out also, I feel sometimes people are using that as a more of a buzzword. But when it comes to Sally and our core analytics offerings, we try to go step by step approach. And it's not like once in a done deal kind of thing. Oh, I have done my personalization effort, let's stop it. No, it's more of an test and learn approach. You test something today, you learn something, and then you improvise. So it's more of an ongoing journey with the continuous improvements that you want to do over a period of time, right? And that's what I see as a personalization. Now, personalization can be done in so many different ways, and we are trying to touch base as an organization, so many different aspects of it. Can be data-driven personalization, can be a channel-driven personalization. We interact with the consumers through our CRM channels that we a lot of support our direct mails, and your team always supports us also on those campaigns, right? So understanding those direct mails, SMS campaigns, email campaigns, how we interact with consumers, not only just for the point of selling the goods, but more of providing the knowledge to the consumer, how these channels can benefit to that uh, uh, at the end of day, right? So we always think this as a channels more of providing quality knowledge about the products, how to use them, providing upcoming discounts and offerings that we offer at a scale as well as a personal level, right? Not everyone in our consumer base are going after hair color. So we have wide variety of product offerings. So we need to understand and provide the quality offerings for each individual who wants to buy certain things. And it's not just a blanket offer. So, so looking at it from that, we always go by data-driven approach. So understanding what consumer buy, when they buy, and 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 again, it's an just a cycle of use, right? It's not everybody is coming after product again and again and utilizing it, right? So understanding the emotions behind the product use is also now plays a role when it comes to the personalization. So it's not just about you go and pick like, oh, someone buy a milk, they will buy a bread and butter concept over here. It's not that level of product recommendations. It's more deeper than what we think of it, right? So understanding those all and layering down the core understanding of product, how those products are being used, how it is being uh, tied to certain hair type or maybe your skin type is really important over here. It's not just a generic product that everyone can use it. So it may be suitable for your certain hair type, but not be relevant for me, right? Or maybe it is relevant for me, not relevant for someone else. And then, as I said, it's a business of colors and emotions. So we need to also understand what resonate to the certain consumers when it comes to the different colors and the color types and the products that they use, right? Uh, so mixing all this together, we are trying and building an ecosystem that we can personalize over a period of time with an industry focus and tailoring the solution across segment of one. I see it as a more of a personalization rather than segment of group is what is our end goal. I'm not saying we are there yet, but it's a journey. It's always we test and learn and we improvise on time to time and building an overall ecosystem underneath how we integrate all the different tools and technology so that when it comes to like 25 2025 2026 2027 building that pipeline so that when it comes to 5-year goal we will be able to reach that, right? So it's about building that journey over a period of time is what we are trying to working on.
So you've mentioned omnichannel and tools and software. One of the things that I know we've all noticed is the press releases and analyst coverage for the new do-it-yourself platform. I think it's called Studio by Sally. And I've noticed that the reactions are very favorable about that. Can you tell me about that as that relates to what we've just been talking about? Is there anything in particular from a data standpoint that's needed to support something like that?
Yeah. So we have two core offerings currently going on in terms of enabling or building that confidence in end consumer, right? It's more of do they really feel confident in utilizing or using those products by their own when it comes to B2C kind of domain where consumer wants to build that confidence in trying that product at their home. So Studio by Sally is something like more of a concept stores where they can go and learn, buy the products from the store itself, and there are certain professionals available in those stores. They help you to teach how to use those products. So it's more about booking those services and learning like hair color treatments or hair care treatments, workshop and sessions that you can book through, and you basically build your confidence in terms of doing DIY products. Right? Another is more of a digital experience where you go online and if you're searching for something in hair color category or hair care category and you're not sure what to do with this product, how to use it, how to mix it. So we have a licensed colorist on demand offering, which is also pretty famous, and it's very well received across the consumer. And how we offer is not just any chatbot; it's a real color expert are there behind the phone, behind the chat, and you ask any questions and they answer those questions. And you can go on a call. You do like video conference and then try to ask as many questions you have. You book an appointment, and the licensed colorist will help you which product to choose, which combination to apply based on your hair type, skin type, or any allergies that you might have due to certain mix of colors, right? So understanding all those things help that consumer as an end confidence with the help of Studio by Sally or licensed colorist on demand. But this is the consumer facing product. When we go one step behind from the analytics point of view, we try to understand how those services are being offered to the consumer, how they are treating those services, how their behavior changes is once they go in those journeys, whether they go into the LCOD journeys, whether they go into the Studio by Sally journey, and how they feel confident after that, right? And how we can help them. So based on those touch points, we learn a lot what consumers are looking at it, and that's where we can also think of building future proof product lineup from the innovation point of view also. So I think that helping in a both way, understanding and learning more from the consumer, what they want, where they want to do, how they want to use those products, right? So from both the offerings, Studio by Sally as well as licensed colorist on demand, with the backed by analytics and a lot of other engineering aspects of it as an overall ecosystem is helping to reach that more from the personalization point of view.
Huh. So I really learned a lot today, Nikhil, from you, and I know that our listeners did too. It's just a great pleasure to be able to talk to somebody that's operating at your level in a brand as important as Sally Beauty is. If there's anyone that wants to get in touch with you, or if they want to learn more about your work, how should they do that?
I think the best and easy way to reach out to me is LinkedIn. I am always available on LinkedIn. Direct mail me on LinkedIn email, and then I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, again, Nikhil, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. It was really very meaningful.
Thank you very much, Jim.
You've been listening to the AI Master Group podcast. I'm your host, Jim Griffin. Until next time, stay curious and stay in front.